As we look at the judiciary, the judicial branch of the federal government of these United States, it's important to understand that while people are not God, and while the president is certainly not God, the closest thing that our government has to the all-knowing, almighty, omniscient, omnipotent God of Jews, Christians, and Muslims is the judiciary, the court system. When people cry for justice, it's to the courts that they appeal. When there is a wrong, it is to the courts that they go to see that wrong righted. The symbol of the court system is a woman in robes holding the scales of justice, blindfolded. She, the personification of justice, is supposed to weigh the evidence without prejudice, without preference, without prejudgment, or tilting the scales in favor of her favorite in any way, shape, or form. The closest thing that human beings come to the ideal, the unattainable ideal of justice is our court system. And because our court system pretends to such a lofty standard, it is going to be fundamentally different from everything that we have covered so far. What we've covered so far in the study of of our federal government is the work of politicians, legislators, congressmen, senators, presidents. Some aspire to be statesmen, but in the end, they are advocates of a political point of view. In the end, they are politicians. But a judge is supposed to be something else. And the lawyers that ply their trade in the adversarial system of justice are also supposed to be something else. In the end, it is not acceptable for judges or lawyers to act like politicians any more than it's acceptable for me to become a circus acrobat engaged in repeat performances. I could do a high dive once, and then I wouldn't have to worry about anything ever again. I am not suited physically, mentally, or emotionally to be a circus acrobat or a trapeze artist or a tightrope walker. And it would be wrong for me to accept a position doing that because I couldn't do it well. Judges, they're called justices when they're on the U.S. Supreme Court. That means that they are the archetype of, the personification of, the archons of, the apotheosis of what should be the abstract and unattainable quality of justice. So the judicial branch is where people go, governments go, for justice. To understand this further, you need to understand, what is the law? Is the law the difference between right and wrong? In an ideal, perfect world, maybe. But in fact, the law is the line that our politicians and leaders have drawn. And on this side of the line, you can do what you want, without fear of punishment, as long as you don't cross the line. But if you cross the line and you're over here, the government is going to identify you, convict you, or charge you with a crime, chase you down, imprison you, put you on trial, and then sentence you if you are found guilty. The law is the line that if you cross, you will get punished. It is not equivalent to the difference between right and wrong. That is for God, or theologians, or philosophers. It is not an exact or attainable thing for human beings, especially in the field of politics, to really capture. So if the law is not the line between right and wrong, but is the line between what you won't get punished for and what you will get punished for, what does justice have to do with any of it? And the answer is, our laws aspire in this country to justice. They don't always achieve it. And some of them are not close. But the system in the United States, rooted in the foundations of what? The U.S. Constitution. Always in this country comes back to the Constitution. Laws in the United States aspire to represent as closely as possible the ideals of justice within the context of the system, the rights, privileges, and duties established by the United States Constitution, articles and amendments thereof, and defined further by the various Congresses and presidents that have made laws and signed laws into effect. So, is this the case in other countries? Well, in some, yes. As much as the French annoy me, their system of justice genuinely aspires to justice. So do the British. So do the Germans today. Not under the Nazis, but today they do. Do the Russian courts? Do the Chinese courts? Do the North Korean courts? Do the Venezuelan courts? Do the Cuban courts? Hell no. The court systems in communist countries and in dictatorships have a very different role. They don't aspire to any universal ideal of justice rooted in Judeo-Christian morals, rooted in the Western tradition of individual liberty. The court system is simply another club with which the leader and the party and the government beats its people into a state of submission. In China, like in all of these other countries, in one way or another, you can be found guilty of having an opinion that is not authorized by the leadership of the Chinese Communist Party. And if you express that idea too openly, you might get taken off the streets and put into a black hole somewhere and never seen again. Or you might be taken off the streets and tortured until you have the right opinion ingrained into you. Or, if they decide to make a different kind of example of you, they will charge you with a crime, have you appear in open court. The Chinese Communist Party judges, whose duty is to enforce the will of the Chinese Communist Party, will then put you through a show trial. If they have prejudged that you are going to be convicted and executed, they will convict you. They will order your execution. You will be sent to a prison, and in the month or so before your execution, you will suddenly get better food than you've had since you were arrested, maybe in your whole life, so that you are fattened up, so that on execution day, they'll put a bullet to the back of your head. You're dead. Your family gets billed for the price of the bullet, and your organs are harvested and sold on the international black market for the personal profit of the members involved of the leadership of the Chinese Communist Party. And this has been going on for decades. Their system is not a justice system. It is a travesty of justice. It is all about the exercise of unlimited power by the leadership of the Communist Party, which is why they failed so miserably to deal with the containment of the coronavirus, because the coronavirus was not authorized by them. So at first it was denied. For months it was denied. And the world is paid, and is paying for that willful blindness on the part of the communists. The justice system in our society is precious because it aspires to that ideal of justice. Can it ever really achieve it? Not any more than I can become a successful trapeze artist for repeat engagements. In other words, no way. But we try. And over time, we have tried to get better and better and better at it. And as a conservative, I say that that is the glory of liberalism and progressivism. The reform impulse to look at our society critically and see things that are wrong with it and want to do something. That's not really my thing. I'm a conservative. I basically say on many levels, love my country, love it or leave it. But I know that my country can be better, and there are times when I'm all for reform. The glory of my liberal and progressive fellow citizens is that that is their passion. Rooting out corruption and rooting out wrong and trying their best, their fallible best to make the country more like its ideals. So we'll look more closely at the role of judges next time.